break there about trade.
Mm-hmm.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. The Lord's name, the merciful, benefactor, the merciful Redeemer. I openly bear witness there is no God but Allah. And I bear witness that Muhammad is this messenger of Allah, the servant of Allah. I greet you in greetings of peace. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
I want to thank you, man, for allowing me to share my views, just like you share your views on Al-Islam, the Quran, life of Prophet Muhammad, prayers and peace be upon him, and this way of life that we have called Al-Islam. The Quran itself is so broad, so comprehensive, that everybody can have a different opinion and can still be right. Because we're not going to have the same opinion. We're not going to have the same interpretation. We're not going to have the same perspectives. So you can be right. And Allah knew this when He revealed His message, that all human beings don't interpret things the same. Though we don't interpret things the same, it still doesn't mean that we're wrong in our interpretation. So, today, I want to share my interpretation, my understanding, my little study of this particular ayah in Surah 66, Tahrim, it's called Tahrim, ayah 6. Well, before I go in, I'd like to say I want to share my understanding of this of the first part of this ayah, because I believe this ayah is very comprehensive and it covers a lot of things. So I don't want to try to cover the whole ayah. I want to just try to cover up the first part of it. And after covering the first part of the ayah, I want to tie it into a statement that is a very old statement, and we've heard of, we know, sometimes we even say it's called know yourself, know thyself. And finally, I want to show, from what I understand and study, that this confirms what Imam W. Muhammad said about Allah being a Lord of all systems of knowledge. And then concluded and showed that it's all together and not something that's discombobulated or separate. So the ayah in Surah 66, Tahrim, ayah 6, says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, ku anfusakum wa ahlikum naran. And translates into, by Yusuf Ali, O you who believe, save yourselves and your families from a fire whose fuel is men and stone. So that's the one portion we want to try to stick with today. Oh, you who believe, do we believe we can save ourselves? This is Allah's statement. He's saying this to the believers. Save yourself or yourselves. Right? He's telling us to save ourselves. Now, Allah wouldn't tell us that if He didn't believe He's given us enough to do it. This is my I don't believe that He would make a statement like this in the Quran. Oh, you who believe, for those who believe, save yourself. If He didn't give us enough tools and information to do that. So, with the little information I have, I'm beginning to believe more and more as they go on, that it's in my hands. It's in my hands. Saving myself is in my hands. So, the first term, ku, is a term that has been described by the dictionary as meaning to save yourself, to protect yourself, right? To ward off evils, to guard against evil and calamity, of all kinds, to be secure, to take as a shield. All of these things are describing the first word, cool. 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 Remember I said, "O you who believe, save yourselves and your family." Cool and fusakum. So that term cool, save yourself, protect yourself, preserve yourself, take the shield to guard yourself. The word has it's one little syllable, but it has a lot of meaning. Cool. And we know, and fusakum, from and fusakum, we get the term nefs. And we all are familiar with the term nefs. So actually what we're doing is just revisiting these things, because I know as believers, we have read this over and over again, and we continue to read. So this is just another revisitation. And fusakum means, in there, the word nafs. And nafs have been defined as being the soul. It has been defined as being the person. It has been defined as being the self. Right? And all these are comparative terms. It has been defined as being the mind, the nafs. It has been defined by a host of things. It is sometimes called a hidden reality, which is beyond human perception. You can't see it, the soul. It's beyond human perception. It's the essence, right? Something that you can't put your hands on, like I can grab the mic or grab a note card. This is what the soul has been described. It has been described as being the psyche, right? The psyche, that's an older term. So understanding all of these, or as many, my teacher, Humanity Muhammad, he said at one point that your reality should be the same, whether in good times or bad times. Your reality should be the same. If you believe in the source creator, we say Allah, then your reality should be the same. Not that your conditions don't change, but your reality should be the same. So, understanding first that we must save ourselves before saving our families. The responsibility is placed on me first, to take care of me, to save me. If I can save me, then start saving your family. It's like charity starts at home, then spreads abroad. So first, let's save ourselves. And how do we save ourselves? By cultivating the soul. Cultivating the soul. We do it through prayer, and we do it through other means. But prayer is one of the best ones. And we like to compare the soul, if we can, to soil. Like soil for your garden or your farm, if you're a farmer. A lot of people know soil because they see gardens everywhere. They have one right around the tree here in front of, not a garden, but it's a flower garden. Yeah, it's a flower garden. But a lot of people know gardens. They may not work them. But a garden, there's soil in it. Either potting soil or there's dirt, natural soil. But you have to clean it out. You have to keep it clean. You have to keep the weeds out. Make sure there's no broken glass or rocks or unnecessary stuff in it. So when you're ready to plant your seed in it, in that soil, it won't be affected by those other things that might hinder its growth. The soul can be compared to soil. The soul needs to be cultivated as well. Things need to be kept out of the soul. Bad things. But you build the soul, you cultivate the soul, you grow the soul, first through prayer, as we said. And you know, the Muslim believes in prayer a minimum 5 times a day at certain times. If we pray 5 times a day as is prescribed, it brings us in accord with the heavenly bodies throughout the universe. It brings us in accord. and things start falling in place for us, blessings and all that, we say, where in the world did that come from? But we're in accord with nature and everything else when we do these things on time. When we don't do it on time, then that's when we have these other issues. So, the soul can be likened to soil. When you put your seed in the soil, after you've cleared out all the stuff from the soil, the seed's going to give you a nice, either a plant, a vegetable, or whatever. When you put your seed in your soul, you're going to get the same good results. Now, you may be asking, well, what kind of seed am I putting in the soul? The seed that goes in the soul is word. The word. Words. Words. W-O-R-D-S. Words. And we've been taught that words make people. If I tell you that you're nothing but a bunch of words, how can you disprove it? And I can scientifically show you that only thing I see is words. Right? If I see flesh, I see bones, I see teeth, I see hands, fingers. These are words to me. And that's the only thing that's the only way I can conceive them is in the form of a word. Words make people. And other words make you too. They make you healthy or they make you unhealthy. Right? We're living in a culture that has mastered words. Not the people so much, but the social engineers, social manipulators. They have mastered words. And they know how to use words to inflame certain passions within us. For example, consumerism can be inflamed. It can be stirred up in us to go buy this, to go buy the LeBrons or whatever. Consumerism, and it's really big right now. In our community, in the community of the African Americans, it's almost engulfing us. It's like judgment, the fire of W-H-E-L-L. Because it's so prominent, the passions of consumerism. And it's inflamed by words, by advertising, by marketing, right? By putting certain figures in front of your face who have what you want. You only conceive it as a word. So these are things that Allah is telling us. As a part of saving yourself, you got to know what feeds that self. And the thing that feeds the soul more than anything else is words. Now, my teacher, W.D. Muhammad, said that the soul is transparent, which we pretty much know. It's transparent. It's also intangible. It's not something that you can touch. Not with your hand, anyway. It is limitless. Limitless. There's no limit to it. Just like when you look out into the outer space. No end. Yet, that soul can be cultivated. Just like soil can be cultivated. It can be grown. Grow it. You can grow it. Grow your soul. You know, some people may think it's an intellectual thing when you grow the soul. You can also explore the soul, just like you explore the forest or a foreign land or even the outer space. You can explore the soul. And conversely, you can exploit the soul. And that's been happening on a big level today. I think one of the prior scriptures says in the last day, the war, the final war, is going to be a war in the sky. It's going to be so high in the sky that most people are not even going to know what's going on. They're not even noticing. Because, for one thing, most people, when you say sky, they're looking out there. You're not thinking about here, the sky in here. They're thinking about out there. And that's an example of how vast it is. But actually, the war in the sky in the last day is going to be here. This sky. So, now how do I know myself? In order to save myself, how do I know myself? This statement, know thyself, is so old. I mean, I don't know how old it is. Ancient Egypt, even before then, people had carved on the tombs entrance to certain places. Know thyself. When you know yourself, you know everything about you. You know your character traits. You know your character traits. You know your senses, your five senses. You know that you have things that work for you. We would call it our self-community. Years ago, we used to have a brother in our community who wrote a book called The Community of Self. And he was describing the certain characters of the self. The conscience, the drives, the ego, the memory, the reason, the senses, and the will. These are characteristics of all of ourselves. And the will's supposed to be in charge of them all. But sometimes the ego gets in charge. That's all about me, man. They hurt my feelings. I don't like it. You ain't giving me my fair share. I. It's all about the I. That's the ego. Or sometimes it's very emotional. Describing somebody who's really, really emotional. Or it's about a person who only wants to remember what happened in the past. Every time you talk to him, you remember 2 years ago, man, we did this and nothing happened. You remember, brother, 10 years ago we did this and nothing happened. So all they ever bring up or talk about is things that happened in the past. So that's a character trait. But again, the will is supposed to be in charge of this community. It's supposed to be in charge of the conscious, the drives, the ego, the memory, the reason, the senses. It's supposed to be in charge of all of that. Now, additionally, if your feelings are right, if the feelings are proper, if the hearing is not distorted from playing your music too loud, right, or going to the concert where the music is too loud, if the seeing hasn't been so distorted, and that's a big question because we have people today who know how to move the thimbles around to trick the eye. They call them a magician. So seeing today might be a little skewed, but smelling, if your senses are off, then you may not be getting the right messages. And if your taste is off, you may not be getting the right messages. And with the environment we're in now, with the so-called pandemic, a lot of people's smelling and tasting is off. If they've been affected by that virus, those are two symptoms of that virus. Your smelling can be off, and your taste can be off, and other things as well. But these are two of the senses. Also, in this community that we have, we're talking about the self of us now. So we first identified the fact that we're going to save ourselves. We're going to be responsible for saving ourselves. In order to save ourselves, we need to know ourselves. These are some of the areas that we need to know about ourselves. Our senses, our character traits, and these guys coming up. We need to know that we have servants working for us all the time. Some of these servants, they do what you tell them to do. Unconsciously, they do what you tell them to do. Your tongue doesn't say what you don't want it to say. It says what you want it to say, right? The eyes, they look at what you tell them to look at. They're not on their own. They don't have their own thinking. They'll look at what you say look at. And they won't look at what you tell them not to look at. The hands, they go and touch things that they shouldn't be touching, but they only do what you tell them to do. They're not on their own. These are servants of us. The feet, they take you into the dope den, or to the prostitute house, or into the vault or the bank trying to take the money that you know you're not supposed to be taking. They'll take you there if you tell them to, right? The mouth, right? You can say things, but it's not haphazard. Sometimes we say a Freudian slip. But really, all you had to do is just bring it down a notch. You probably wouldn't have had a Freudian slip. But the mouth says things that are not on their own. The ears listen to stuff that we shouldn't be listening to. and the genitalia. We know about that. You know the genitalia does things that it's told to do. So these are servants of us, and Allah tells us in the Quran that on that day, all of these are going to bear witness, either for or against you. How did you treat your servants? How did you treat your servants? But we want to see that since these are our servants, these are our character traits and these senses, we want to put them in check. And it's not a complex thing. It's not like you have to go and get a doctorate degree. It's not that you have to go and get a master's degree or even a bachelor's degree. Just do the right thing. Be natural. Things will fall in place. Right? That's helping me to know myself. You know, I'm told that I'm a righteous Muslim. Right? I'm told that I'm an African American. I'm told that I am a male. So, understanding how, believing for sure that I can save myself, and how do I do it? First, by mastering my traits, mastering my servants, disciplining my senses to be in line with what Allah has given me in the Quran. If I say I'm a Muslim, and I can be on my way then, but I have to start there, right? Now, the fire that we're talking about, that is going to consume the people, these fires are, as we said, fires of passion. People are giving themselves to social fires, fueled by, again, the social engineers, the manipulators. Consumerism, greed, hate. Hate is a passion. Whether we know it or not, hate is a passion. Some people passionately hate other people. You know, and if I can use this example, for 350 years, some people have been hated so much, right, that the whole culture is designed against them. All the wording environment says you're a liar, you're a thief, you're lazy, you're a beast. A host of things about a certain people. But for 350 years, day in and day out, this is what has been said about a certain people. So that's got to be hate. That's got to be a flame, a big flame, right? But Allah is showing us today, with His message that has come to us, that that's not how it is, and we can correct that by confronting it. There's emotionalism. People are still emotional. That's a fire as well. And there are unhealthy practices amongst certain groups who say that now it's time for them to come out. Come out. Come out of the closet, they say. And this isn't new for a lot of us. We know this is an old practice. But as a fire, as a nar, a passion, certain manipulators have brought it back and have inflamed it. You know, there's love. That's a passion. Strong passion. Right? Anger and hate, these are passions. And our passions, for the most part, American people, our passions have tied up our energies. Our best desires for better conditions have been stifled by our passions. The passions for anger and misguided love, all these things get in our way. But when we use the tools that Allah has given us, as we said here, the senses, character traits, and the servants, just some of them now. Once we use these things to our advantage as we're supposed to, we can win. We can win. You know, this revelation that we have, called the Quran, this is the Furqan, the criterion for judging. Whether we use it or not, that's on us. But it has come to be the measuring instrument for measuring right from wrong, and especially in the areas of religion. Measuring if this is a true religion or if this is a false religion. If what they're saying about the messengers is true or if it's false. This Furqan, this criterion, Furqan chapter 25, it is a criteria, it's a measure letting us know, for helping us make our decisions. So if we use it, we'll see rewards. If we don't use it, then we won't see the rewards. So in essence, what we're saying, once you decide that you understand, once you come to the understanding that you can save yourself, you are on the next path to understanding what is myself. And once you get on that path of understanding what yourself is, ultimately you want to understand that every field of knowledge, Allah is over it. The Creator is over it. The Source One, the one who sent the Ruh to you. And sometimes they say the nafs is the Ruh. Right? The one who sent that breath of life to you, the Ruh, is over all knowledge. When our teacher, Imam Muhammad, said that Allah, the Creator, is the Lord of all systems of knowledge, it took some of us time to really grasp that. To really grasp that He's the Lord of all the systems of knowledge. Now, all the systems of knowledge, that's a big statement. But if you think about just some of them, we talked about character traits and servants. Each one of them is a field to themselves. You know, in our society, we have people who work with these areas like feelings, like hearing specialists, eye specialists. That's a field of knowledge as well. Each one of them can be broken down to be considered a field of knowledge. Smelling, you go to certain specialists. Tasting, if they think something's wrong, they will show you what to do to improve that. All of these are fields of knowledge. And, well, insights into all of these things, the Quran gives it to us. We have to have what some say a pure heart to get them, but we get them from the Quran. And it's not where you got to go to the university, Norfolk State, ODU, VCU, Richmond, wherever, to gather what you need, because it's there. If you're reading the scripture, if you're honest, if you don't have preconceived ideas about what God is, if you go there with an open mind, it will be made clear to you. So we got to have some things. You got to go with an open mind. Now, understanding also, when you know yourself, you know that there are certain things about you. There are certain things about each of us that we use every day, and we don't give that much attention to. For example, the numbering system. We say the Creator is one. One. Not many. We say it's one. Now, the Arabic term for one is wahid. But this one is not the one that we're talking about when we're talking about the Creator. When we're talking about the Creator, we're talking about ahad. That's a incomparable one, if I can use the term. That's a one that you cannot find a likeness for. Ahad. We say, Kul Allahu ahad. Say He, the Creator, Allah, is one. And this one is so independent, so alone by Himself, that we don't even have the capabilities of making a comparison. You know, there is a statement in the Quran where Allah says, Laysa kamithlihi shay'un. No likeness of the Creator. You can't make a likeness. And He's telling us, you really can't make it. You may fashion something like some people used to do, fashion their gods, especially in the time of Abraham. They fashioned gods with the hand, maybe using ceramic or clay or whatever. And they started worshiping. Some of them, it is recorded, I don't know how true it is, recorded that they made some of the idols out of oatmeal. But when they got hungry, they turned around and ate the gods. So once we understand that these things, they don't, you know, like Abraham said, they are enemy to ourselves. We'll leave them off. Anything that's considered an image of God, the Creator, it's really an enemy to myself. And we have confronted that. We have confronted it. We have met it face on, head on. A lot of people maybe haven't confronted it yet. Just like in 1976, we confronted racism head on with the image that attempts to portray the divine. We confronted it. And from then on, we've been clearing out our mind, our perspective, clearing all this stuff out of our eyes, out of our perspective, out of our understanding that was given to us. Myths, the lies, the fairy tales, the fantasy, right? If you're my age or younger, you probably can relate to this the fact that we've been raised on myths, fairy tales, fantasy, fiction, you name it. There is what they call the magic kingdom, right? The magic kingdom. It's huge. You know, Disney, Magic Kingdom. It's a kingdom built on magic. And if you ever paid attention to any of their cartoons or whatever, it's all about magical things that maybe make you relax, so he can put his idea in your head, make you relax and feel good. Yet still, he's inserting his point. Goofy, Daffy Duck. Daffy Duck, if you remember Daffy Duck, is huge duck with a diaper on and a milk bottle in the class with regular ducks. There was a message in that, but a lot of us didn't get it. So when he put it in animation, a lot of people not going to get it. Daffy Duck, if you remember, he was huge. That was saying this was one that never grew up, never grew to his normal state. He was physically huge, but he had his bottle, they had him in a diaper. Mentally, he hadn't grown up. And there's other ones too that you could probably can think of, more than I can think of, because they didn't become a kingdom off just one or two things. Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, Hocus Pocus, Simple Simon, and it just goes on and on. Thousands and thousands and thousands that they pushed on the American people to become the kingdom that they are, the Magic Kingdom. And our children, they love going there right now. They take those characters and they make them bigger than life. Mickey, Minnie, and Donald, all of them. And you go in there, they're shaking your hand and not realizing that we grew up on myths. So when Imam Muhammad taught that you need to separate myth from religion, it was on point. And for the adults, they had other things. They had a little bit more devious things. They had these programs that talked about promiscuity, cheating and lies and incest within the family, intrigue. And that's still on today, on television for the adults. The point we're making here is that they're giving us words, and if we're not careful, those words can retard our soul, our self, our psyche. Until you confront it, until you get a grip on what's bombarding us, you're going to continue to walk around, as they say, like the Walking Dead. The Walking Dead. If it wasn't my grandson, he likes going to the Dave and Buster's. And they do the Walking Dead and the other one with the dead. But they never die. They're just like skeletons, just keep coming back alive until you actually get them right there in the head. If you don't get them in the head, you don't really kill them. But he loves going to play those games, and we go there from time to time. But I'm seeing something that he doesn't see, and I try to pass it on to him. But the words that they're promoting are harmful to us, and we don't really know it. We're not aware of it. So Al-Islam comes to show us that. And Imam, with his commentary, his understanding, teaching us that Allah is the Lord of all the systems of knowledge, that helps us as well. So what we're just pointing out and revisiting some of the things that have been shared with us. This isn't something new. This isn't information that's secret anymore. Today, the information that's being made available is so vast that there is almost no excuse. There's no excuse for not knowing. They said when back in 1865, when our foreparents and the others were let free, some of them were so eager to learn that you could see them leaning against the rake, trying to read something, trying to catch up, because they had been denied reading for so long. And today, with all the information that we have at our fingertips, we have more information today at our fingertips than they could ever imagine. So there's really no excuse for not getting to know who we are, how things work with us, and how we can save ourselves. We can save ourselves economically, we can save ourselves socially, we can save ourselves politically, if we do what's been given to us in the scriptures. We have prophets as examples who have demonstrated how to live. All we have to do is follow their pattern, because we were not left without guidance. And we talked about the number system, how each of those numbers have meaning. We talked about one, wahid, for counting, but ahad, which is it's a comprehensive term, that it's a one, but you don't use ahad for counting. You use wahid for counting. And two, we're told that life is presented in pairs. Is presented in pairs. And then for the third one, we understand that there are stages of development that the human being must go through. 3 stages of development. 3 primary parts to the soul. The basic part, which deals mainly with your appetites and your passions and your feelings. And then when you step it up one level, that's another level which you recognize that you're giving into that, and you try to correct it. And then the third level is when you are successful at controlling them and you're at a state of peace. Okay? So there's three stages of that soul. And for the fourth, the number 4, we know that most everything is based on the foundation of 4. Houses are on four corners, right? Most everything is on the number of 4. But 4 is very significant, because there are 4 foundations of life that every family has to implement somewhere in the process, in their growth process. Culture, economics, business, and government. 4 foundations. Then there's 5. There's 5 senses. We have 5 senses that we talked about. And for the believer, the Muslim in particular, 5 prayers. Right? We know the first 5 verses of the first revelation that came to the last prophet. Read in the name of your Lord who created. The first 5. And other 5s. All these numbers have a lot of meanings other than just numerical. 6, Emil was talking about 666. Not the beast, but 666 is 18. And in this society, somebody has said that at 18, you're an adult. Now, who said that? Is it scientific? Where did it come from? They got it from religious knowledge. And 7, they said that 777, 3 times 7, at 21, you're an adult. Is that scientific? Where did you get it from? Somebody got it from religious knowledge and pushed it out into society. And we accept it without question. Although some groups start their 13-year-olds off orientating them towards adulthood at 13. So that by the time they're 18, they can run this corporation or run this business. But others, mosey along, as those things are going. There's nothing going on. The 8th, for the believer, the Muslim believer, we have 8 points that we put on the floor during our prayer. And it said that 8 holds up the throne room. 8 points: the forehead, the nose, 2 hands, the knees, and the feet. 8 points. It said 8 holds up the throne. 9, and this is a whole lot more to this. Believe me, it's a whole lot more. I'm just skimming the surface. Now, for the 9th one, we know the human being is born in the 9th month. His gestation period is 9, right? But it's also a growth month. So you do things in growth periods as well. And then the 10, we're told that 10 represents consciousness. 10 represents consciousness. Now, let me go back to one of them. 7, we've heard in our scriptures that 7 is, there's 7 heavens and 7 hells. We were instructed and told, and even shown with explanation, what the 7 doors to heaven are and 7 doors to hell. So if we want to know how to take more control of ourselves, we understand that these two, the 2 eyes, the 2 nostrils, 4, right? 2 ears, the 6, and the mouth. They're the only entrances to you. The 2 eyes, the 2 ears, the nostrils, and the mouth. That's 2, 4, 6, 7. They're the only entrance to you. Okay? These, and if you don't have some angels there to keep the wrong things out, it's going to be pretty hellish in there. But if you do have it, it could be paradise. It could be heaven. So these are some of the things that when we go to understand ourselves, we see that there's a lot to know. And to tie it all in, to understand that Allah, the Creator, God, is over all of these fields of knowledge. Each one of them is a separate field of knowledge. In this society, we see again how people have specialized in each one of them. They specialize in the ears, right? They specialize in the nose, the throat. They specialize in the mouth. They make a career out of it. So, for us, we want to know, or we want to understand how to save ourselves, what we have to do, what knowledge what knowledge do we need to save ourselves, and go from there, basing it on what we get out of the Quran and the life of the last prophet in Scripture, Muhammad ibn Abdullah. I'd like to greet you with the greetings of peace in the Quran and Arabic language that all the prophets had or gave to their people. When they met them, they said, Assalamu alaikum. So at this point, if I have said anything that anybody may have a question about, I hope I can answer or clear up if it's not clear. Other than that, then Allah be the witness that we convey the message as best we understand it, and we did it without any ulterior motive, without trying to excite your senses, or without trying to make you get excited. We saw this more as a class. I know this is supposed to be Ta'lim, and Ta'lim actually is education. But we saw this more as a class to revisit certain things. Because we all are familiar with this as believers. We're familiar with these terms. We're familiar with this knowledge body. So for a lot of us, all we do is revisit it and to cement it in our mind and understanding. Because once you deal with the culture here, you're going to need as much as you can. So that's where we are. We ask Allah's forgiveness, and we close by saying, ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب ربنا إنك من جميع الناس ليوم لا ريب فيه إن الله لا يخلف الميعاد ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك وله الحمد وهو على كل شيء قدير آمين. Assalamu alaikum.
I did have something. So I always thought that it was interesting that the ayah is 66.
66:6.
Yeah, 66:6, and that's why I always remember it, because Allah says, "Save yourself and save your family." I wonder, you're talking about numbers, just the correlation. If that was something paradoxical or something pointing towards it, like other faiths says you can't save yourself, and Allah tells you specifically you can, and you can save your family in that ayah.
If we believe it, I think being that the Quran is the conclusion and it's a fuller explanation, they may not see it as we see it, but if we believe it, if we believe that we have the chance to be our own redeemer, to save ourselves, that's putting responsibility on me. And a lot of people may not be ready for that responsibility. So they can find all kinds of reasons that, well, that's not how it is. But we're saying that God has said this to the believing people. Save yourselves first, then your family, from a fire whose fuel is men and stones. Right? And the angels are there guarding and protecting and doing what they're supposed to do, one on the right and one on the left. So if we understand it as such, and our belief will determine a lot whether other people will understand it from us or not. If we're sincere in our belief, if we're firm in our belief, you'd be surprised how far that'll go in helping other people understand this concept, that the responsibility belongs to you. You waiting on somebody else, you pass it off, think that somebody else is going to take responsibility for you for what you've done. It's not going to happen like that. You're going to have to face the music. You're going to have to deal with it, because the responsibility has been placed in all of our hands. So
I like the way you worded it too. You said that if Allah said this, that means He has the confidence that He's given us everything we can or we need to save ourselves. When people, if they put it in that perspective, then they can see that it is up to you. It is your responsibility. You're going to be held accountable for this. That's why this whole life is important, to make sure you're on the right path, because Allah has given you everything you need.
And there's nothing. We don't ponder the fact that when we were given the breath of life, the ruh. Imam Muhammad said in one of his lectures that what's required for us to save ourselves, it came with that. And the prophets demonstrate how to live it. It's there. The prophets come to demonstrate how to bring it out. They tried to bribe Prophet Muhammad, we know. They said, Muhammad, if you want beautiful women, we'll give you all the women you want. You want money? We'll make you the richest man in the land. And they gave him other things. He said, look, that's not what I'm out for. You can put the sun in my right hand and the moon in my left hand. It wouldn't stop me from teaching this message, because it's just that important. Only my Creator could stop me from teaching this. He gave it to me. Only He can stop me from teaching this message. So what he was saying, what you're offering me is far less important than what I could get, right? So if they want to give you women and money and power and all that, and people in this world want to give you that, there's a term out there that if you really want to be wealthy and all, go to Hollywood. They'll make you wealthy, but you got to do what they say do. Right? You got to do what and sometimes some of the things they want you to do, you may not want to do. But if you sign on the dotted line and you take your first $1 million or $2 million, you in. They got you there. They got their claws in you. There's nothing you can do. And I don't think you can get out of it easy once you sign the contract.
And what they say that is, you sell your soul.
That's right. Sell your soul. Why sell your soul to lose to gain the world?
Right.
But yeah, it's just so much, and those messages that we have been receiving from infancy until today, they've all been based on lies, fantasy, fairy tale, myths, magic. And Michael Jackson tried to duplicate it too with the Never Land. It's a fairy tale kingdom, right? But I know I grew up watching all those cartoons and those stories, but they all had a message I couldn't interpret. Because in my heritage, where we came from, we was denied so many things. We didn't have that acumen at the time. We could look at stuff and just laugh. And the message going in there just as poison as can be. And we didn't even know it. So, with God's help, this is a saving force for us. this message is saving for us. And the brother who came and pointed these things out, he was a blessing to us. Not that we have a prophet who came to us, but we do have a messenger. You can be a messenger. You bring me a message. I can be a messenger. I bring you a message. He was a messenger to us, right? We don't put everything in the category that God sent him as a messenger, but ultimately we know it does. God sent him. The university didn't send him. The sheikhs didn't send him. And I'm taking this this online Arabic class with this brother Benjamin Vidal. You probably heard of him. He teaches the meaning of each letter. We've been taught that in order to understand the Arabic, we go to the roots. Study the roots of the words. His view is that there's something deeper than roots, and that's the seed. Let's look at the seed, because the seed give you the roots. The seed give you the roots, and the roots give you the branches of whatever. And I think it's a very interesting perspective. He's a student of Imam Muhammad as well. And I thought it was really good when he showed us how language evolves over time. And it has so many meanings. Today, you can say one word, and it has shades of meaning. Like, for example, gay. At one time, gay used to mean just happy. Now what does it mean? Right? It has a host of meanings. And that's how language has changed, but we need to stay with the basic. The most basic of the meanings. If we can stay with the most basic of the meanings, we'll be saved.
All right. Shukran. You got any questions?
Yeah, I do. I come from a Christian background. Basically what I mean by that is, my younger years, I was baptized. I went to church every day with my grandma when she was alive. My mom as well. But like I told you, I knew a Mason. Me becoming a Mason, I did a lot of study. I do a lot of study. And I started studying a little bit more Christianity, just on my spare time, And it led me this way in a way, because, with my story, I believe that all three books complement each other. But my issue is where the conflict bleed at. When you speak of Abraham, and you speak of his son, and you speak of Ishmael, who to say who's right? Like a brother like me still searching, and I know that my path is coming this way, and every brother has to define what that path is. That's why I asked you to come. Maybe me just speculating my thoughts, I can hear from other people.
Absolutely. Well, let me do this. I'm gonna turn this.
I believe that all three are right to a certain